booties for black girl nerds.
I'm doing great. Well, thank you guys so much for taking time to speak with me. Show's great, so this is awesome to talk to y'all.
Right.
Yay.
Rachel, I will start with you. So, playing Nina as the FBI's first Black female agent, we see her kind of written off fairly quick. So, I
Mhm.
want to ask, what advice do you have for any woman stepping into a space that's predominantly occupied by men, and how can they overcome being underestimated?
Oh, that's a great question. One that I feel like we all ask ourselves many times throughout our lives. So, I think, I think Nina and I guess, have had to just really rely on my black girl magic. I feel like that's a really cliche answer, but I know who I am. I know my worth. I know that their issue with me is their issue. It's a systemic issue, but I know ultimately it has to do with them and their fear. I think we see that with Nina and the FBI office, that clearly they are threatened. And I think that's ultimately what this comes down to these with these systemic issues that find their way into institutions and places of work is that people get really scared of somebody who knows that they are good at their job, that they are smart, that they are talented, that they aren't afraid. And so I think I would just advise people um to really know that it's them. They're scared. It's not you.
Thank you. That's such a great answer. I appreciate that. And Josh, you link back up with JJ. So of course, Lost fans will be 1,000% tuned in for Duster. So besides the location and circumstances, what was different about working with him this time around?
He was there a lot, which is a pressure, by the way. I love JJ, but JJ is a presence. And so this is the first thing he's actually penned in a while. He doesn't, of course, tweaks everything he works on, but he's primarily been directing and show running and that kind of thing. So for him to actually write something, him and Latoya, I was so honored just to be a part of that. And his presence on set and um giving directions in the most sacred time of a character, like that their beginnings, and when you're growing the character. It was very helpful having him and Latoya there to remind me to keep it light, keep it breezy, because bad things are happening all around. But he works for the mafia. This is normal. This is your everyday Monday. So I was like, ah, yes, remember that, because Josh is a little more intense, probably more Sawyer-like, more angry all the time. But Jim is breezy. So that was really nice having them both on set to remind me of the tone, which I feel like carries through the whole show. And the same thing with these big uh, questions of racism and misogyny, and this, the way I feel, the way you play Rachel is so receivable,
Mhm.
like dealing with these things, but in a way that is like, let's just get to it. Let's keep going. Let's get past this. Yes, I see your shit, and we're gonna keep going. And that lightness, I feel like, it disarms them all. And they're like, well, we don't know what to do with her. She's capable and nice. And we're trying to like make her, bait her, and she's not taking it. So I love that about the whole show, because it has a fun adventure to it in that Tarantino Starsky and Hutch kind of way.
I love that. And you used the word breezy. The hair was very much breezy through the show. I loved it.
You know,
Oh, he's breezy
got to be.
for sure.
And Rachel, Nina is such a strong role, and you're so great at it. In fact, I got to give kudos to the wardrobe and the styling because they
Oh
did a
yeah.
phenomenal job at really bringing through the 70s. So, given that it's a period piece, what was like preparing for this role? How was it different from like something like Love Victor? Do you feel like you took a different approach to like the way you spoke or like your body language at all?
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, first of all, I really tried to get into this world as much as possible. So yeah, I did some research. I read some books on the 70s, on the Black Panthers, on Nixon, talked to, we had a really, really wonderful resource in Jerry Williams, who's a former FBI agent, also a Black woman who joined in the 80s. And she was just a wealth of knowledge and experiences. And she has this podcast where she talks to former agents, and so they talk about their most memorable cases or their favorite cases, and she's just got hundreds of episodes. So it was just kind of listening to that on a loop. Um, and and then yeah, I had to learn a few new skills. Worked with an agent on how to shoot a gun. And then yeah, I guess like building her physically, I think the clothes certainly helped. We had an amazing costume designer, Dana Pink, um, and uh, hair designer,
Yes.
Michael Ward, who we kind of shaped who Nina was really in her fro. And I think really honestly putting those things on kind of just does something to you. She just like finds her way.
So
Yes.
like Pam
Yeah.
Grier type. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's how I found her.
And this question is for both of you because it's a hot topic in the center of the series. So when it comes to being an informant, or as the streets call it, snitching, what
Mhm.
are your thoughts on that? Like, do y'all think that Jim's character did the right thing, or is there at some point there's like some type of code? Like, what is y'all's thought process on it?
Ooh.
Well, that was a big issue for me, actually, because when you're starting a character and growing a character, uh, you really need to know where they're coming from, to know where which direction to grow that. So I was upset at first, quite honestly. I was like, okay, first episode, you have me, you know, working for the government when I've grown up my whole life as this is my family.
Mhm.
So we discussed that openly, JJ and Latoya and I, because I was like, I don't want to commit character suicide in the first episode. So there has to be real reasons for Jim to be doing this that I can grow. Uh,
Mhm.
and so by them bringing in the family aspect, because he's very loyal to his family, his mafia family and his biological family. And I think by bringing with Nina and approaching him uh, with her vulnerability of she lost her father to this man and opening up in that way forces Jim to really look at her and go, wait a second, damn it, I've had these suspicions in myself, and now it's really being shown to me. Uh,
Mhm.
and still, he's worked for the mafia. He's been shaken down before. He's not going to just give up his family, but there's something about this woman that is real, and I think he really believes that her father was killed by Sachs, and that opens a door in him. Like, okay, so I'm gonna act like I'm working for her as much as I can and get all the information I can and then ditch her. That's the way he thinks it's gonna go. But as we pull the threads, it doesn't go that way. Obviously, other information comes in, and so I at first, the first draft of the script, I it was not the way the show turned out. So I loved having that open discussion with Latoya and JJ, and they're so agile and creative and in their art that they were able to make that work, to make those relationships work in a way that it did not commit character suicide
Yeah.
and gave us both places to go. Um,
Well,
Nina,
yeah. Yep.
I just really quick. I think if she was not in this position, she'd be against snitching. I think she's not interested in working with the government unless it's for this reason. And then, like, obviously by the end, I think she becomes a little more open. But to circle back on that, yeah.
I do like that they both had their own reasons for coming in, and I understand both sides. So it is a touchy situation, but I
Yeah.
do appreciate you guys speaking with me. I also love that this show does come out weekly instead of just being dumped onto streaming platforms. So
Yeah.
this is gonna be a great series for the summer. So I do appreciate talking with you. This is definitely a great show, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with us. I very much appreciate it.
Of course, I'm excited.
Yes. So speaking of excited, like first credit as a showrunner and co-creator, like that's got to be exciting. So what were the feels like when you wrapped filming and you got to see the final product? Because we all love a good period piece, and with this being coming out just in time for the summer, this looks very promising.
I was so excited. Oh my God. We've been working on it for a couple years. So it was just so great to get it all in the can, get it finished, and then to take it through post and just see it all come together. It was really, really thrilling. So I'm waiting for the world to see it, and I'm hoping like everybody loves it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I did see that it was first announced like around in 2020. So do you think it works against you or works in your favor to have something like take a long time to come out because you have more time to tweak it and get people's opinion? So do you think it worked in your favor or against you?
I think it worked in our favor. I mean, we had a chance to, dig deeper into our characters, and of course, a lot of these things were out of our control, like the writer's strike and things like that. So we just tried to roll with the punches, and I call Duster the little show that could because we kept chugging along like through all the craziness, and I'm glad we're here.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that you said that it worked for you because there's so many projects that actually it doesn't work for them. Either people age or they're scheduling conflicts. So I'm glad that it worked and we got to see this show come out.
Mhm.
And being a showrunner, what went into the decision to make this a weekly release rather than dumping it all on streaming at the same time? I personally do love the weekly releases because it gives you like something to look forward to. Everyone can talk about it with their friends and on socials, and you're all on the same page. So what went into decision of making that weekly?
Yeah, that was the decision from the beginning. I'm a big fan of water cooler shows, so I love like letting that week build up and everybody's like, "Wait, don't spoil it for me." Like, I'm still gotta catch up. I love that it continues to be a conversation piece, over the lifetime of the season. That's the best way to watch for me.
Oh, for sure. And I'm anti-spoilers. I stay off Twitter. And
Me too.
have you had anything spoiled for you that was like massive and you're like, oh man, this is why we can't do that?
I mean, this is from back in the day, but someone told me the twist of the others, and I was so mad. That movie, the horror movie, The Others, and that's probably the most traumatic one. But like normally, I try to stay away. I think someone told me what happened with White Lotus, and I was really mad about that too. I was like, no, don't spoil me.
I get mad. I actually genuinely get mad. I had a friend that was in a theater for The Hangover, and somebody ran in and was like, he's on a roof the whole time, and that's terrible. But I do want to talk about location because I feel like it is important to pick a spot where things can thrive. And that Challenger being on those dirt roads and it being this bright orange, I feel like it was a character on its own. So how did you guys come up with choosing locations for certain scenes?
Well, we shot in New Mexico, so that was a wonderful place for us to have our home base. It had the beautiful like desert vistas, which were great, that looked really cinematic on the show. And then they had the stages where we could build our interior and build our FBI. So that was amazing. And then of course, the duster looks incredible in the middle of all that, like sun bleached and sun soaked. It was just a wonderful place to shoot, and everyone was so welcoming. So we're really grateful.
Yeah, I could tell that it looked like it was hot, and I'm from Texas. I'm in Texas, so the
Oh
heat,
my
tell
God.
it was close to where we
It
are.
was very hot. And then, like, when we came back after the strike and we had to shoot in the winter for summer, it was super cold. So we would be in the middle of the desert, but it would be 20 degrees. So everybody was freezing, but we were having a good time while doing it.
Well, it looked like a lot of fun, and the relationship between your characters, I feel like is really good between Josh and Rachel. So, how did you guys come up with pairing them together? Like, how the casting process go?
Well, we knew that we had Josh from the beginning. When the idea first came and we started talking about the story, JJ and I, we were already on board. We were like, Josh is our Jim. And then we spent time looking at like hundreds of actresses for Nina, and we found the right combination of like toughness and vulnerability and strength in Rachel Hilson, and she's been incredible for the show.
Yes, no, she's awesome. I think that their dynamic works really well. And my last question, I have to ask about what that reunion was like between JJ and Josh. Like seeing that all over again after so many years, and for them to collab together on Duster, how do you feel like that's going to impact like all the fans that are going to come in from Lost? Like, do you think they're going to see a whole different side of Josh and JJ working together?
I do. I think so. And they worked together before, since like in Mission Impossible and things like that. But this is like they have a whole like hopefully multiple seasons like to work together again. And I think, obviously, I'm so in love with Lost, and I was such a big Sawyer fan. So it was even a starstruck moment for me when I first met him. But I think that the greatest thing about JJ and Josh working together is they have this great shorthand with each other. He can give him a note, and then Josh can take it and really do a wonderful performance. So I think Lost fans will not be disappointed. This will be something really fun. You'll get to see, of course, his swagger and his charm, but you get to see a little bit of vulnerability, a little bit more sex appeal, for
Hair.
Jim's character. So that's all the stuff that we want.
Yeah, no, I think that hair really is a character in its own too.
It really is.
Like blowing in the wind. Well, I
Yes.
think this is great. I'm a big person on like if I follow a character, like I followed Penn Bagley from Gossip Girl. So when they
Hmm.
announced that he was gonna do you, a lot of us like were like, okay, let's check it out, and it ends up being great because you're still getting that same character within. And I think Josh was a perfect casting for this.
Yes.
So it is great. I can't wait for others to see it, and I do very much appreciate talking with you today.
Oh, of course. Thank you. You're my kind of fangirl too. That's how I am. I follow him everywhere. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a great day now.
You too. Bye.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.